Dan Malavolta, production manager with Advanced Framing. We do all the framing for residential construction, new homes, and townhouses. Primarily, it's new construction. We don't do any renovations or additions at the moment. But new home builders we work for in the city of Charlotte, True Homes, D.R. Horton, LGI Homes. This year we're projecting probably between 900 and 1,000 houses. So my journey started probably back in high school. I started landscaping for a friend of my dad. You know, $7 an hour, cutting grass on the weekends and in the evenings if I could. And that got me through high school. I ended up going to college for business. It wasn't right for me. I had a degree in business, but I sat in an office for, I think, 3 months. And I remember watching the guys outside cutting the grass going, man, I'd rather be out there. And so I went back. Went for a bigger landscaping firm as a supervisor, crew leader for them. And when I was with them, I started doing installs. So I started going into new home neighborhoods and doing the front yards, the sod, the trees, the shrubs, some of the common spaces. And when at the time I ended up moving to Charlotte, and I wanted to get further into that. I remember watching the superintendents and all the guys building the houses. So I started applying through companies in Charlotte. I ended up landing an assistant superintendent position and worked my way up to superintendent. Got to know my manager very well, and he ended up starting a framing company. So I ended up going with him to the trade side of it, and that's how I became an employee of Advanced Framing. I started with them as a field manager, and have worked my way up to production manager. Typical day starts for me about 5:30 a.m. and that's when I sit down with my notebooks and find out where everyone's going, because I have to kind of tell everybody where they're going for the days and make their day for them. Meeting crews, going over new plans with them to start the house, because when we show up on a job site, it's pretty much just the concrete and the material. So I meet my guys to go through the plans, make sure they understand everything, go over all the specifications they need to know, any county municipality codes. Then I'm also going and doing quality checks. So you know, when the house is finished, like the one we're in now, I'm going to come through this and check everything to make sure it matches the plans. You know, or there's an inspection that failed or a safety violation, they're going to call me for anything like that. And then my field managers are also calling me kind of with, you know, they've ran into something they don't understand, and so I would help them through that. The whole process from concrete to finished house framing, as far as just the framing, is on average about 5 days. And that's for a crew of approximately 5 guys. You know, when we assemble our walls and we attach them, you know, questions, how do you attach the wall to the concrete? You know, the concrete, the mason, he actually installs straps or bolts they can use sometimes, and they embed them into the concrete when it's poured. And we just take them and wrap them over our plate to make sure it stays down. Those are spaced at a very specific distance, just for lift, to keep the house from lifting up off the concrete if there's ever wind. You know, we space our studs standard 16 on center. Sometimes on non-load bearing walls, builders can have you up to 24 inches on a non-load bearing. That's the maximum, but pretty much 16 is the standard. You know, anytime you have an opening on a load-bearing wall, we're going to install a structural header. So rather than just a 2x4, if you see here, this is a non-load-bearing wall, just a 2x4, versus here's a 2x8, double 2x8, because there's more weight above this, so we need to keep it from sagging. You know, you can kind of get an idea a little bit as you walk around when it's framed of the rooms. Some people have trouble, but you know, here you can see pipes coming out, so I know this is a bathroom. You can kind of get an idea this is a bathroom. You know, for any HVAC or plumbing, we have to frame these chases in for them, so that they can hide all their pipes and lines in the walls, and you don't see where they're going. A lot of times in houses, you'll never see that. Once it's sheetrock, you don't even realize it's there. So the roof system's completely engineered. We hire a crane, or boom truck is another word for it. If you see it, it's, you know, just big enough to be able to reach from the street or the yard on top of the house. Speaking of the roof system, as you can see, it's big, right? These roof trusses are quite large now. I mean, this house is probably spanning about 60 feet, and they're carrying that weight from the front to the back. If you have here, where they don't quite sit on the exterior wall, you have, this is called a girder truss. Just like we have structural beams on the first floor that carry I-joists, this is where it can carry multiple trusses, so that they come into it and it carries the weight out and down to the sides. And then we have these extra 2x4s here to carry that load down. One of the major things I love about my job is the freedom. I make my own days. I drive from job to job. I don't really have anyone micromanage me, telling me where to go all the time. That's a huge perk. I mean, not everyone can handle it. You know, we've had that situations, but it's a great perk when you start to understand if you get your work done. You know, there's no one just over your shoulder all the time, watching what you're doing. Other than that, I love working with all the guys out here. It's it seems like a team-oriented type of work. You know, if it's not for me and my guys working together, and with the superintendents and with the home builders and the inspection, everyone kind of works together to make sure the houses go up and go up right. Challenge, I'd say. You know, when I worked in the office, you know, you were kind of just pushing papers around. With home building, I'm constantly problem solving. I still see something and I'm like, man, that's the first time I've ever seen that. You know, and let's come up with a solution for it. It's just fun, and home building is constantly changing. The products are constantly changing. The methods we're using are constantly changing. So it's nice to be on the forefront of that, to be always learning that and knowing that, and helping other guys do.